So this is the Database Administration Concepts and Management final project. My name is Mark Stiles. I'm here with Tracy Lavin, and we are going to demo our digital media marketplace. So what we're going to walk through is how we built up the requirements, then the data modeling and the database around that, and then built the application. We'll walk through that application and then give some thoughts about things that we wish we could have done if we had more time. And for the requirements, let Tracy, you can start.
So welcome everyone, just to give you an overview of our design concept. For this project, we know that, or the idea is to create a marketplace where intellectual property can be claimed, sold, and licensed. So we know that there's already a defined market for high-end digital media, blockbuster films, and commercials. So this is more for the amateur and independent artists that are trying to create intellectual property. So this application that we're going to walk through is a marketplace for low and mid-grade level folks. So first here we have established 6 entities in our concept. The first 2 that you see here are user and payment information. So basically everything, user is the central table that everything is working off of, all of the relationships. Our attributes here are, as you would expect, name, email, phone number, payment information, and so on. We have our required fields listed, composite and unique, as well as our relationships, which we have established 1 to many or 0 to many. Payment information are attributes, user and payment information, both are required fields, and 1 is a composite field. The next 2 that we have are copyright and copyright sales. In copyright, as you would expect, name, media type, file, owner, active, all being required fields. We have our relationships established, as well as the type of values for the media type, whether it's image, video, or audio. On the copyright sales, the attributes that you will see here, copyright seller, buyer, date, price, and active, all of these being required, and the date is a composite field. So we also have our relationships established here, one and only, 1 to many. And the last 2 that we have, license and license sales, we have our attributes, type here, which we'll see when we go through the demo. The drop-down box that you're going to see lists the value types that we have available: master, sync, performance, mechanical, broadcast, print, and theatrical. Most of these fields on this table are required, and we have 1 composite field. And then lastly, we have our license sales table. All of these fields are required. And again, we have our relationships identified and the drop-down value as well. Okay, so going into our data modeling is the next section that we'll cover. So here you will see, this is our conceptual model. This is part of the analysis phase. So the goal of this phase was to understand the detailed information that we needed so that we can anticipate our functional versus non-functional requirements. We have all 6 of our entities listed here. We have the crow's foot cardinality clearly labeled, and all of our attributes are assigned, as you can see, whether it's required, composite, or not required. And then here, lastly, we have our logical model. This is part of the design phase. So this really helped us implement the conceptual model into a relational model. So you'll see all 6 of our entities are carried over. We have our primary and foreign keys assigned. So one thing that I'd like to point out is that you will see on the users table, we have a unique identifier, user email, as well as on the payment information, our unique field, payment information bank account. So this being a unique field helps us establish our data integrity. So we want to make sure that there's no way to have either of these fields duplicated. And what else here? And then also on the copyright sales table, pointing out copyright sales buyer ID is a foreign key. So this is a null field. It's not required to be input initially. Once it's actually purchased, then the field will be completed. And this will link back to the users table. So you can see the users table is kind of the central table for our whole concept here. And then also one other thing just to point out on this, you will see the composite fields that we have. License start date, license end date, you'll see are split into 2 separate attributes, as well as last name and first name as a composite field. We're splitting into 2 separate fields as well.
And so then we get to the database design section. And this is really where we implemented all those tables in Microsoft SQL. And so we started with the up-down script and made sure that that was how we were designing the database itself. We have all 6 tables here. We did add a couple of views, some triggers, and a stored procedure at the end here. And you'll see all the fields, keys, all the constraints. And here's the 2 views and our stored procedure. And the stored procedure, the value for this here was on creating a user, you have to have the user ID to be able to create the payment information, to point it back to the user who's been created first. So it's a 2-step registration step, and we want to do that in data logic as opposed to application logic. So when we get to the application, and this is the source code for the application in here is on the GitHub repository. It's a .NET web application. We wanted to demonstrate being able to use the database in a pretty flexible way. So we went with with rolling our own website. So here you can see the external model. So there's basically 4 different sections here marked off in gray. There's the user authentication and login, and that just gets you into the system. There's the account information, payment information. There's your copyright management and your license management. And then here, this is to display some of the, the comparison from the original, wireframe and then the actual implementation of the page. Here's the registration and login page, the payment management, copyright management, and the license management. And so, that's not going to leave it there. What we're going to do is jump into the site itself, walk through some cases, and show you how the database gets populated and interacts with the website itself. And to note just a little bit how the application works. So it's a .NET application. We're running through the controllers here. All the views here have individual actions, registration, login. So this is the registration form and the login form. JavaScript will send that back to the controller method. The controller method will go in and register you and put you into the database. And so here you can see where it's calling the database changes. So this is the actual stored procedure we call to do both the user and payment information at the same time. These are all mapped in through the what's known as Entity Framework. And so we're pulling in a direct connection, makes it a little bit more simple when you're working with it. All right, so let's dive into the actual website. And first we'll actually show the database. So here's the database itself. And so here's the up-down script. We want to run this just to validate that everything is actually empty. So we have no users, no payment information, no licenses, no license sales, no copyrights, and no copyright sales. So we'll clear that out. And we'll go back to the site itself here. So this is the site. If it was starting from brand new, I just thought it'd be interesting if you're working with digital media to see a couple of intellectual property articles from the homepage. So I'm gonna register and log in. I'm gonna populate my payment information. And I'm gonna create a user. And it's gonna try to save that information. So I'm gonna go back to the database, validate that that user was created. And now I'm gonna log in. And so now what I'm going to do is go and I can view my payment information. I can update this payment information. So if I update that, come back to my table. My payment information has been updated. I'm going to add a payment information. Go back and validate that that showed up. It did. And I'm going to go back and delete the original and validate that that worked too. So now, with the main part of the site here, now that I have my payment information all figured out, I'm going to go and I'm going to add some copyright material. And so I'm going to put my media one, I'm going to choose a file, this, it's an image, upload it, media two, upload that, and a media three. And add that. And now that I have my copyrights, I can go view them. I can see that I have all three here. What I want to do is actually deactivate one. And now if I go back to the database, I can see I have three, they're assigned to me, and one of them is inactive. And now I'm actually going to go and sell one of them. So I'm going to put it up for sale. And I'll put media one for the low price of $99. And now it's up for sale. I can see that it's for sale. I can take that back at any point before it gets sold. I can delete it. And now I'm going to license the other media that I have. So I'm going to put up one license on here. This is going to be $20 from Astral license, which is an unusually low price. But anybody wants to perform, they're going to have to pay a higher price. And license. Okay, so now I have two licenses. Anybody can now buy those. I have one media out there for copyright up for sale. Somebody can buy that. And so we're going to demonstrate that now too.
Okay, so Mark has logged out as the seller. This is Tracy. I'm logging in as a buyer, and I am looking to purchase some of the intellectual property that Mark has put up for sale. So first I have to create an account here. I fill in all of the required information, which we've already said. First name and last name, email will be unique, phone number, bank account, and we'll create a password. So this now creates an account for me and we log in for the first time. Okay, so oh, yep, we want to show that that worked. Okay, so now we're on the dashboard page. So now I can go in and I can search for property that I would like to buy. Okay, so we see that we have two options up for sale here. Media 3, Media 1, we select one. make the purchase. Perfect. All right, go in, we look at the license. All right, great. So we see we have buyer and seller.
Sorry, the license only has a buyer.
Oh, here we, okay, license buyer. Yep. All right, perfect. So here we have purchasing a copyright, my payment information entered in previously, already included, and we make the purchase. Shows me an image uploaded on the right-hand side there. Perfect. Go back to our dashboard. Perfect. So it shows me here of my copyrights purchased, and we can confirm on the table. Seller ID, buyer ID, 1 and 2.
Pretty much be it. So that's pretty much the walkthrough of the application of just seeing two people interact, having created media to purchase and purchasing that information and seeing it change hands. And so with that, get back to the presentation. So that pretty much wraps up what we wanted to show, which was just, taking the original use case, defining the requirements, building up the modeling, building up the database, building up the application. Tracy, you want to start with your retrospective thoughts on the project?
Yeah. So in this demonstration, we only walked through a simple buyer and seller demonstration, but ultimately what you'd like to do is be working with a lot more data, maybe have multiple users in at the same time, seeing how people accessing the data at the same time, making sure that we don't have any conflicts or any deadlocks. So accessing larger volume of data and working with various users at the same time. I mean, if we had more time available in this project, that would have been helpful for sure.
Yeah, and for myself, I would have found more helpful to be able to push more data logic into the stored procedures. There was just a handful of other places where we're doing some complicated double lookups, and it could have been faster with the stored procedure. We could have also potentially improved performance if we were able to load test a little more with more users, and potentially put some indexes in there for a speed boost. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the final project. Really glad I had the opportunity to do this. As we know, data drives pretty much every application out there now, and now we understand how.
We know how.
All right.